Alrighty, guys, welcome into another edition of the Kody and Nick podcast. I'm Nick McDonald. That's Kody Barwick. We're coming to you on a lovely Tuesday afternoon. Kody, how are you doing, buddy?
Good, man. Had a nice weekend. Didn't do very much again. Just relaxed and had a good couple days of work and did a mock draft last night that we're going to get into, and I'm excited about it. How was your weekend and how's the start of your week been?
Oh, it's been all right. This weekend we kind of laid low because I'm actually heading out on vacation tonight, and I'll be gone until Sunday. So we're real excited about that. I'm already in vacation mode. I've got my seltzer in hand, so I am ready to enjoy a little beach time and get into this mock draft that we did last night. We're switching it up a little bit from the divisional breakdowns. We've been kind of hammering those out the past couple weeks, but we wanted to throw this in there to switch it up. And these are always fun to kind of get a barometer of where things stand. I know it's a little early in the off season, but never a bad time to see the lay of the land, and it always kind of gives you a good idea of where people are being valued right now.
Yeah, for sure. So we did 12-team full PPR mock draft on ESPN. Nick was in the 4 spot. I was in the 10 spot. So we had a good little different, basically completely different spots to draft.
Mm-hmm.
So you can definitely tell that with the way that our teams kind of got constructed and such. So I'd say we could just hop right into it. First round, I mean, obviously the top picks went. Nick at the 4 spot went with Austin Eckler. When I was looking at it at who was left, I felt like he was the clear choice. My only concern with him is, can he repeat 20 touchdowns? If he does, he's going to be amazing again. If that regresses, he may come back a little bit, but he has some room to come back and still be very good.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, off the board were Kupp, McCaffrey, and Taylor. So at that point, essentially, I'm looking at, I was considering Jefferson from the wide receiver position, and Derrick Henry was my other option at running back. But in a full PBR situation, I'm going to go Eckler every time over Henry just because of the pass catching baseline. I think that you're definitely going to see regression as far as the touchdown totals go for Eckler, but in a full PPR, he'll keep you afloat. And at number 4, he was a pretty easy pick for me. I think in half PPR or none, I would have gone Derrick Henry, honestly, but we're splitting hairs there at the top. They're both really good. I have no qualms about Eckler.
For sure. I had the 10th pick in the first round, and I ended up selecting Tyreek Hill. I will say I'm not disappointed with the pick. With the way that my team turned out, really helped that. But Nick and I jumped into this. We wanted to take some notes and stuff like that. So I'm over here jotting down every single person who's available. I look up with like 15 seconds left to pick, and I ended up just going with Tyreek because he was the only player there that he could just break a game, without a doubt. I mean, he could take a 2-yard slant to the house. Left was that I was kind of deciding between was Devontae Adams, which I think he's going to be good with Derek Carr, but it's still a little bit concerning. I mean, he's kind of in that same boat as Tyreek Hill, should still be relatively good. And then Stephon Diggs. And I had Diggs last year in 2 of my leagues, and he was good, but he wasn't amazing. So it kind of burned me a little bit there. So that's why I ended up going with Tyreek. Nick probably would have went somewhere else with it. So let's let him tell you why.
Yeah, I mean, I think Diggs is a clear option over Hill. I just like his safety. I mean, Tyreek's obviously a great player, but we don't really know what to expect from this Dolphins offense. You had a target hog in Jalen Waddle last year, who's an emerging young player who has chemistry with Tua, not even just from last year, but from their college days. So, I mean, if somebody told me that Waddle was going to lead the team in targets this year, I probably wouldn't be that surprised. So, I mean, I think Tyreek's very good, but I do think it's tough to know how this is going to play out. So at number 10, I would have taken Kelsey over him. There's probably a few running back options I would have liked more, and I would have definitely taken Stephon Diggs over him. But I mean, obviously, the high upside's there. Hill is one of the 2 or 3 best wide receivers in the league, so it could pay off for you. But I think there were better options at that point, in my opinion.
Yep. So we'll go straight to the second round here. So a few more, Diggs went off the board, Devontae Adams, a few other players, and left me. I ended up taking Leonard Fournette with it would be second third pick in the second round. So
overall.
not bad there. It was the running back position came down to him or James Conner. After that, it was a pretty big fall off in my rankings. And I don't necessarily dislike the pick with the way my team turned out, but if I was redoing it, I would take Kelsey right there. And if I was redoing the draft completely, I probably would have went Leonard Fournette or Kelsey in the first round and then grabbed the running back just because the position's a little bit more scarce towards the end of drafts. But
Mhm.
and that's why I ended up going with Fournette in the first place was I knew I needed to grab a high caliber running back. You
Sure.
don't see too many zero RB teams make it deep in the playoffs unless they just nail, usually if it's a zero RB team that makes it deep in your playoffs, it's because they nailed a late running back and they still have a high caliber player on their team. So yeah, just position there. So I grabbed Leonard Fournette. I will say before we get to your pick, Saquon did go in the second, which I was a little bit suspicious. I feel like he would probably fall a little bit further because it dropped two players to you and you had your choice of Kelsey and Andrews and you ended up going with Kelsey. I understand why. If you want to say a few quick words on
Sure,
that pick.
absolutely. No, Kelsey at 21 overall, back of the second round. I mean, that is an absolute steal.
For sure.
Consider him as high as 10, where you were, like I said before. I think he's going to be the clear number one in the Chiefs offense with a great quarterback. And I mean, I think last year's probably his floor, and that was tight end two within a few points of being tight end one of Mark Andrews, who had a great year. So I think in the back of the second round, he's a great value. And I just really like locking up those top tier tight ends or waiting till the end, like we've talked about before. So if he falls to you in late round two, don't even think about it.
I
Definitely take.
mean, if he's if unless you have what you feel is a game changer at any of your picks in the first and second round. And I mean, Kelsey's right up there. And if you like Andrews more, then that's fine. I'm going to lean Kelsey because, a little bias from a Chiefs fan, but it's a little bit more fun rooting for your fantasy player when he's on your favorite team. So,
Sure. I don't think
um,
even the biggest Mark Andrews fan would argue that Kelsey's safer too. So, I mean, at
right.
21, I don't know how you can argue with Kelsey there. Again, if you want to go Andrews first, there are some industry experts that would agree with you. So I wouldn't argue it too much, but I just think the safety and the high upside that Kelsey provides is too much to pass up at 21. I didn't even hesitate there.
Absolutely. So round three, one takeaway, Josh Allen went in the third round. He was the only quarterback to go in the first four. Not too surprised there, but I do want to ask, would you think about taking a quarterback this early? Even
Absolutely.
one like Josh Allen? Yeah, I
No,
wouldn't
too much
either.
depth, and especially this year, the top. There's probably a 12 quarterback tier here that I'm pretty comfortable with riding into the year as my starter. And you can easily grab one in round 8, as we'll see later, that is completely competent and has a chance to be a top 5 quarterback. So, I mean, I love Allen, but in the third round, there's just too many premium players there for me to be reaching a quarterback. I will say, I think overall, the draft that we did was pretty sharp as far as ADP is concerned. No one strayed too far, didn't reach too much. So we saw a lot of decently sharp drafters in this mock draft, which is kind of what you'd expect for somebody doing a mock draft at 9:15 on a random Monday night in June. So I
Yep.
think you'll find that if you're doing mock drafts now, you'll find that these are people that are a little more committed. So not surprised to see the quarterbacks fall, but just kind of interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So I liked your third round pick. Obviously, going running back, tight end, securing that wide receiver one. You took Mike Evans.
Mhm.
I would say I'm higher on Mike Evans than you are. I know you're
Yeah.
kind of leaning more Chris Godwin in that offense.
Yeah.
But when you have Austin Eckler and you have Travis Kelsey, Mike Evans, his boomer bust weeks. I mean, he's basically your wide receiver too, because Kelsey's your wide receiver one, but he goes in the tight end slot.
Yeah.
So I like that pick there. Him in the third round's good value. That's where I feel like you should go. I didn't see where Godwin went. I'd assume fourth through six, somewhere in there. But like I've been saying, I think Godwin, if he's on a good track to come back and play early in the season, his ADP and Mike Evans are probably gonna get a little closer together.
Mhm.
And like I said, with the way your team's constructed at that point, I think Mike Evans was a good pick.
Yeah, I mean, it was about safety there, going right running back, tight end off the board in the first 2 rounds in a PPR league. Kind of puts you in a box. I mean, if there was a great running back that fell to me there, I probably would have stuck with it. But at that point, I was looking at Zeke or Chubb, and I like both those players, but I went with Evans for the safety. I needed a wide receiver one, and coming back on the turnaround on the 4th round, I knew I wasn't really going to have. I was in the early 3rd, and then I was going to have to wait 17 picks to get back to me at the 4th. So I knew I was going to be looking at a pretty weak wide receiver one at that point, and I thought Evans just provided me a nice safety net. And at my wide receiver one. So we can move on to your 3rd round pick, which was also excellent. One of the guys I just talked about, Nick Chubb, fell to you in the back of the 3rd. And even though
Yep.
this is a PPR league, he's probably a little bit, that's probably why his value got knocked a little bit. Back of the 3rd round is great value. I mean, he's a top 3 back in the league as far as talent goes, and a great pick as your RB2.
Yeah. I mean, what it came down to with him was, I mean, he was the best running back on the board. It was really him or Dobbins at that position. And the wide receivers that were available, I mean, I was willing to let whoever fall to me, which is what happened. So I will say I was listening to a podcast today that said Terry McLaurin is like saying he's not going to show up for any offseason activities with them. So I ended up taking him in the early 4th. I wasn't aware of his situation. So I don't know if him getting traded is necessarily a bad thing, especially if that place happened to be Green Bay. So, that could work out really well. But, he was kind of in that, who was available was DJ Moore, Brees Hall, Deontay Johnson, Antonio Gibson. So all of those guys have question marks. I think, Terry McLaurin, you know, him or DJ Morris, who it came down to. I thought Terry, if he's with the Commanders, still has the better quarterback situation out of those two, and lean Terry for that reason.
I don't really disagree with the pick. Definitely the off field stuff's a little bit concerning right now with his contract situation, but I think in the end of the day he gets paid, and we're pretty far out from the preseason at this point, so there's still some time for them to hash out a long-term deal. I think if he's still holding out into late July, I'd start to get worried, maybe actually drop him in my rankings, but at this point, early 4th round for Terry McLaurin is fine value, especially in a PPR league.
Yeah,
You have anything else to say
absolutely.
on McLaurin, or can I move on to Sutton?
Nope. Yep. Go ahead and move on to Sutton. Actually, one thing, ETN did go mid 4th, and Brandon Cooks went mid 4th, which I think is a little high for Brandon Cooks, but he is very consistent. I understand why he would get drafted there. I would just rather see if he would fall to the 5th or 6th personally.
Right. That's where the value is. I think
Yes.
Cooks is a fine player at that point in the draft, but you're kind of drafting him at where we expect him to finish at that point. So you're not really getting the value that you would if he fell to you in the 5th or 6th, obviously. So ETN went a couple picks after me after I took Sutton in the late 4th.
Okay.
I was a little disappointed. I thought ETN would have a better chance to fall to me in the beginning of the 5th than Sutton would in the beginning of the 5th. So I went Sutton. I had already had Eckler at RB, and in these PPR leagues, it's really important to fill out your wide receiver position because you're going to be playing a wide receiver at flex more often than not. So essentially, it's a 3 wide receiver league if you think about it that way. So I went Sutton, high upside. I really want a piece of that Denver passing game. I might be a little biased, but I just think that they have a chance to force themselves into the top 10 as far as passing offenses go. And if that's the case, someone's going to benefit greatly here. And I think Sutton profiles as the best option. So I went with Sutton in I guess that was the late 4th. And then I came back early 5th round pick, and I went with DK Metcalf, somebody that both of us actually are a little bit low on overall, but falling to 52 overall is great value for DK. I think we're a little bit off him because when we looked at it, his value was around 40th overall. And that's a little bit too rich for me. But if he falls a full round and a half after that, I mean, the player is just too good to fail essentially in that regard. I mean, he's going to be the number 1 in Seattle, and whoever's throwing him the ball, even Geno Smith throwing him the ball last year, he had production. So I think DK as your flex option is a great pick. I just don't really like him as your high end wide receiver 2, low end wide receiver 1 type.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, it was at the point where if you didn't take them, I mean, the next 2 picks were Amari Cooper and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So either of those 2 people were I and DK if he fell past you. So I think you got him right at a great value for him. I'm a little bit lower on DK. So one thing at the end of the fourth, Schultz went right before Pitts. Schultz went with 411. Schultz went 412, or Pitts went 412. A little surprised to see that, but I don't mind it at all. I would rather probably take my shot on Dalton Schultz this year, especially in a full redraft league. So I did want to touch on that because that did surprise me a little bit when I saw it.
Sharp drafters. Yeah, I mean, I probably agree with taking Schultz over Pitts, but I would have not touched either
Not
one of
at
them
that
in the
point.
fourth round. Yeah, no,
Right.
100% would have waited. You ended up getting a decent tight end very, very late. I just think there were better options there at that point. So Schultz in the fourth round, way too rich for me. But I mean, I like the player. I think he'll be a solid option. Just not in the fourth round, people. Wait till the sixth or seventh. If he falls to you there, go ahead and take him. But the fourth round's a little too much.
Yep. So in the fifth, I ended up, kind of also on this wide receiver trade, and ended up grabbing Marquise Brown.
Yep.
Um, I would say I'm a little bit down on him, but when you realize who you are drafting around people, it makes them look a lot better. So
Yeah.
my options were really Brown, Hunter Renfro, which I felt like he kind of fell, but then I realized he's the third receiving option now, and I understand that a little bit more. Elijah Mitchell, which I was contemplating a lot, Miles Sanders, Jerry Judy, Mike Thomas. So ended up going with Marquise. I feel like he's just going to have a really good first 6 weeks. I mean, because it's a little bit concerning when Hopkins comes back, but, college quarterback and wide receiver reuniting. I mean, we saw what Jamar Chase was able to do as a rookie. So if Marquise Brown can catch fire with Kyler, that would be wonderful. And that's basically what led me to that pick. Very, very high end wide receiver 3 for me at that point. So was
Yeah. I
happy
mean,
with that.
at my point, I was considering Metcalf or Marquise Brown, and
Yep.
I had 20 seconds to decide. I went with Metcalf, but if I had picked Marquise Brown, I probably would have been just as happy. So to get him in the late fifth instead of the early fifth, not bad value. I think he'll be a solid option for you even after Hopkins comes back. He'll have his good weeks. So good pick.
So I was thinking about this when I was looking at these notes. Let's say Marquise went instead of Amon-Ra St. Brown, and let's say he was available along with Elijah Mitchell. I would take Elijah Mitchell at that point. Where do you stand
Over
against
St. Brown.
between those two? Yes.
Oh yeah, 100%. Give me
Okay.
Mitchell the shot at
I was
a
shocked
dog.
he went before these players. I was kind of hoping to grab him actually in the sixth, where we'll go into that in just a second. But yeah, I saw him kind of go off the board, and I was like, oh wow, that's little early for me for sure.
Yeah, I'm just not as high on St. Brown. I think his target volume is going to come way down from where it was at the past the last couple weeks of the year where he really exploded. And Jameson Williams integrating himself into that offense. Hawkinson kind of taking some of the short to intermediate routes as well as St. Brown. I don't know how much volume there's going to be to go around in Detroit. I think they're going to be run first team as they should be with their offensive line and their great running back. So I'm not as high on St. Brown. I would have definitely taken Mitchell over him if I had the choice, and I like Marquise Brown far better.
All right. Yeah, we're in agreement there.
Yep.
So let's jump in here to round 6.
Yep.
So quick turnaround here. Elijah Mitchell did go off the board. I'm pretty sure Hunter Renfro went off. Nope, he's still on here. So I ended up going with Jerry Judy. My pick basically became between Hunter Renfro, Jerry Judy, and Miles Sanders, and really came down to Sanders or Judy. I ended up going with Jerry Judy just because I, just like you, would love to have a piece of that Denver offense if they are really, really good. So, Russell Wilson seems to make all of his receivers fantasy relevant. That's obviously a three-headed monster there. So it's kind of just taking your shot on who you want. Like I said, Miles Sanders would have been my other pick there. I kind of a coin toss for me, but I ended up just going wide receiver because there's a couple running backs a little later that I liked, but nothing too much to say there.
No, no argument with the pick. I like Judy
Yeah.
there. I probably like the value on Judy that you got over the value I got on Sutton because you got him a round and a half later. But I mean, I prefer Sutton in the offense going in, but who knows how it's going to play out. So Judy
Yep.
in the sixth round, great value.
For sure. And I actually don't have your note here. Who'd you end up grabbing there in the sixth?
So my sixth round pick was Kareem Hunt. That ended up being my RB2 at that point. So let me take a look here real quick. The other guys I was considering instead of Hunt were, let's take a look here. I had, Bateman was on the board. I was looking at Rashad Bateman, but I kind of realized at that point that I really needed to grab a running back. And
Mm-hmm.
at late sixth round, I actually really like the value on Hunt. I think he's kind of left for dead just because he's the second running back on a team. People really don't like picking what they perceive as a backup running back that early. But I mean, go back and look at this guy's production. He was the RB10 in a full season behind Chubb with this team, and he was the RB8 before he got hurt last year. And especially if Deshaun Watson's not there, they're going to need to lean on the run game. And if he is there, they're going to be a good offense that's going to move the ball. So, especially in a PPR league, Hunt kind of profiles as more of the pass catcher out of the two of him and Chubb. I really like Hunt's upside. And if Chubb is ever to get hurt, Hunt turns into an immediate top 5 back. So there's always kind of that hidden upside that he brings you, as well as solid stability from an RB2.
Yeah, I mean, he's just the better version of what AJ Dillon is. In
Exactly.
all honesty, I mean, he's someone like he fell to the sixth. I mean, now that I look back on it, because I remember we talked a little bit before this, you said that you had to kind of go down and search. I would probably take Kareem Hunt over Jerry Judy. If I don't have Nick Chubb, which was also a factor in why, I really wasn't
Right.
looking for Kareem Hunt, but in that sixth round, because I mean, at that point, you're hoping on Miles Sanders or Clyde or my next pick, who is Damian Harris. Like, you're hoping on them becoming better. Kareem Hunt's already amazing, and he's amazing with limited snaps. So if Chubb's ever injured, he's an immediate RB1, must start, no doubt. And if I know there's potential trade talks, I mean, if he gets traded to a place where he is the clear RB1, he's immediately a first or second rounder in fantasy,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
100%. Yeah, I mean, even if he stays in his current role, I think he's still worth about the pick that you're getting him at, plus the upside that we just discussed with either a Chubb injury or a trade. So I
yep.
really like Hunt at that point. And then I did end up swinging back around in the early seventh and getting the other guy I was considering at that point, which is Rashad Bateman. I really like him as a player. I think this is more of a calling my shot thing. I think that was probably right around where Bateman's ADP was. It wasn't so much a great value as it was just, I really like the player and I love his opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, and you didn't grab Andrews, with that spot at the tight ends that you could have chose. I feel like if you take Andrews, taking Bateman's a little riskier at that point because you're
Of
taking
course.
a lot of that very small passing pie. But yeah, I like that pick. Good way to round out your wide receiver core. So in the seventh round, I ended up snagging Damian Harris towards the end of the seventh, which was pretty solid because at that point, he's the last running back on the board who's like a clear starter.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind it. Like I said, I would rather have had Kareem in the sixth and then drafted another depth piece in the seventh
Right.
for a wide receiver, probably. So wasn't too thrilled with that pick, but just kind of had to deal with what was left. But he's also my or running back, I believe three. Yeah, three. So hopefully he's just there as a depth piece and he's not like too involved. And, at that point, there's a chance that someone that you draft later, which we'll get into, could potentially pop. And then you're not even really worried about drafting Damian Harris. So,
Yeah.
um,
I'm trying to avoid the New England Patriots backfield on a whole
that's
for the
fair.
most part.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I like the value that you got. I think Harris is mostly going in the sixth in most ADPs that I've looked at. So late seventh, not bad value for him. I just think that the backfield's a little muddled. So I might have
For
went a
sure.
different way, but there wasn't many good options for you there if you were looking running back. So I don't really blame you for the pick.
Cool. And I'm just gonna spring this on you real quick. So this is live, I guess, but we are under about 8 minutes until Zoom will cut us off. So how about we go ahead and end this recording now? We'll just separate it, early rounds, late rounds, pods. And since you're going on vacation, this is great for me because this gives content to put out
Sure
while you're
thing.
gone. So
Let's do it.
Awesome. Sounds good. If you are watching this video to the end, like, comment, subscribe.
Please.
Obviously, part 2 will be out in just a couple days. So if you want to know how the drafts turned out, tune in there as well. But yeah, Nick, I'll send you an invite here in just a few minutes.
See you guys.
Peace.